And no one really knew what she was doing. But two things were happening here. There's probably little doubt that the oil being poured on his head and now the perfume oil being poured over his feet was something akin to being coronated as king. Because that's what they used to do. They used to pour oil over a king's head. In this instance, she's using it to wash his feet. And John does this throughout his gospel. He wants you as the reader, he wants you to realise this and now this. Because what we're about to see in chapter 13 is that Jesus says it's time now to organise the Passover meal, which was a day early. So that's odd, but the disciples go ahead and do it, and they can't get a lamb because the lamb wasn't prepared yet in the temple because that was going to happen the next day. Precisely at the time Jesus was nailed to the cross. And we heard this morning Kate say that Jesus was the Passover lamb. He laid aside his outer garments and taking a towel, he laid it around his waist. So he stripped off his garments, tied it around his waist, taken a towel. He's now bare-chested, the posture of a servant. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet as they argued over who was the greatest, and to wipe them with the towel that was wrapped around him. So in the midst of all of the, let's call it out, stress that Jesus was going through, he models the kind of leadership that he would be expecting of his disciples. What Jesus is about to say when he goes to Peter, who may have had what many of us men have, ticklish feet. They couldn't see that Judas was a scoundrel, a thief. This became clear to John afterwards. One of his disciples, whom Jesus loved, which is John's way of referring to himself, was reclining at table at Jesus' side. And when we say reclining at table, we're not talking about chairs. We're talking about elbows. And John's leaning across Christ on the ground when the feet are out, which is how Jesus could wash their feet back here without them realising what was going on. And John's leaning on the breast of Christ. And so Simon Peter motioned to him to ask Jesus of whom he was speaking. Isn't that amazing? Peter, the apostle, had obviously not seen any of the movies that came out about Judas. He's always the dark mascara guy, the beady eyebrows, like usually monobrow.